Hello, it's Liz here with Stampin' on the Rock. Today I'm going to share with you one of the brand new stamp sets from the new catalog. And I will have to say that this stamp set is, I'm sure, in my top three favorites in this mini catalog. I love this set. It looks exactly like my mailbox. I have exactly this kind of shaping to it. I think it's just sweet. And so I love this stamp set. So I'm going to share this with you today. The paper that I'll be using, Pool Party, will be the base. So this is just a sheet of 8.5 by 11 cut in half, and I've already scored it. So I'm going to fold that in half, and let's go ahead and use the bone folder and get a nice crease on that. Okay, so again, this was Pool Party. Here's the color. We'll set that aside. Then I have a piece of white cardstock and a piece of crumb cake cardstock that are both the same size. They're 2 3/4 by 4 1/4. So white and crumb cake. I have a piece of Granny Apple Green that is 1 1/2 by 4 1/4. And then I just have a couple little scrap pieces that the size isn't really a big deal, and I'll get to that in a little bit, okay? Let's see what we're going to start with. Let's start with this piece here. I'm going to take this one, and I'm going to use crumb cake ink. And again, I'm just pulling from this stamp set, so there's these little hearts here. And I'm just randomly stamping these. Okay, so that's it on that one. We'll just put that aside, and I'm done with that stamp, and I'm done with the crumb cake. Okay, that was super simple, right? All right. Let me take this white piece here. This is the 2 3/4 by 4 1/4. And we're going to stamp, I'm going to stamp this mailbox. Now, these stamps are the cling stamps. Generally speaking, with the cling stamps, if you're going to be stamping in like black, you want to use the Stays On ink. Like if you're going to stamp it in black and then color it in, you want to use Stays On ink. But I'm going to be using the blends. So generally speaking, with blends, you would want to use Memento ink. Sometimes we don't want to use necessarily black right from the start. Like I wouldn't necessarily want to use Stays On here. Not for me personally, but sometimes people don't like to use Stays On here because the Stays On will stain your stamp sometimes. It doesn't really bother me as long as I can still stamp clearly with it another time, it's fine. But I just want to tell you there are some other options than the black ink. So what I'm going to do now is I'm not going to use Memento ink or Stays On ink. What I'm going to use, I'm going to use Basic Gray. It'll give it just a little bit softer look when you're stamping. And then I'm going to highlight it a different way later. So stay with me. Hang on here. So I'm going to use Basic Gray. And we'll go ahead and stamp this on here. I'm going to press down in the center. And let's pull that up. And there we go. Okay. And then you can just clean this off and there's no staining involved. All right. So there we go. There's the Basic Gray. Now, Basic Gray, let's just color it in. I'm going to be using some blender, Stampin' Blends. Okay, I just feel like I'm getting ahead of myself, so I'm going to slow down a little bit. So I just stamped that in Basic Gray, so it may look black, but it's just a little bit softer. So I have the blends here. I have dark crumb cake and light crumb cake is here. I have Granny Apple Green, which is just the dark Granny Apple Green. And then here I have a dark smoky slate. And I have a light smoky slate. So all the blends come in a light and a dark. This one is light Poppy Parade. And then this one is a light Basic Black. Okay, so we're going to get a black outline in a little bit, but I'm using the light rather than dark. So like a Stays On would be really dark. So hang on with that one. I'm going to put that one aside. All right, so let's start with the crumb cake. What I'm going to do is I'm going to use my dark crumb cake and I'm going to use my bullet end. There's a bullet end and then there's a brush end. So I'm using the bullet end with the dark crumb cake. And I'm going along the edge. Make sure that you're seeing it okay. I think you're good. So I'm just gonna it doesn't have to be exact. Don't worry about exact, but I'm just taking it right along the edge. Just know that these blends will bleed a little bit. So when you turn it over, you're gonna have bleeding through there. So make sure you have something underneath it when you're doing it. Otherwise you might end up with ink on your table or your surface, whatever. Okay, I'm gonna go along this edge here. Anywhere that you might see that it's a little bit darker on your image. So this is like along a seam, I'm doing the darker color. There's not an exact to it. The more you play with these, you might do it the first time and be like, I don't really like the way it looks. Just play with it a little bit more. So I'm just doing the dark here. Let's see, I'll do a little bit of dark up along this very top. And maybe we'll put some dark in there. I think that's probably it. Okay, so there's my dark, the dark crumb cake. Now I'm going to come in with my light crumb cake. I'm going to do a bigger area, so I'm using my brush end. And I'm going to pull from, I'm going to start in the dark section. I'm pulling out. And I'm only going one direction. I'm not going back and forth like you would with maybe like a Crayola marker. But I'm starting and I'm pulling and just going one direction and picking up my marker so that I'm not going back and forth. Back and forth, back and forth on your brush tip is going to ruin your tip. Okay, so you can pull in a little bit if you want to get more of that edging, that darker color, if you want to blend that a little bit more. And if you feel like, ooh, I don't know that it's blending exactly like I want it, do a little more. Do a little more. Don't be afraid to add more ink. And when you get to your very edges, or you get to like little tiny spaces, flip over and use your bullet tip. And then you can get to little small spaces. Okay, so your bullet tip is good for doing edges or for small spaces. When you have some bigger spaces, use that brush end. So stick with me for a minute or two while I color this up, because I'm going to show you something that's going to make a big difference in the look of your image. Okay, let's get this part up here. How's everybody's new year starting off? Depending on when you're watching this, today is January 2nd. And I always love a new year, but I also like Mondays too. So I don't know what that says. I just like to start fresh. Okay, so there we go. That's the post. Let's switch over now. I'm going to use the grays. I have the light smoky slate and the dark smoky slate. And again, I'm going to take the bullet end of the dark color and I'm going to put that right along the edge up here. Let me know. Feel free to leave a comment if you've used these blends, if you have questions about the blends. If you love them, let me know that too. That would be great. Just taking the dark along the edges here. And maybe I can just put a little bit on this, on the edge of the door. Okay, I think I'm just going to go with that. And then we'll pull it. Make sure that you hear that snap. I've said this before when I've done these. Make sure when you close these up, you hear a snap to them or they will dry out on you. So now I'm going to take the light and the brush end and I'm pulling in from the dark. I've said this numerous times. These blends are what got me to really enjoy coloring. I was not a big colorer before, but I love these. They're just so soft when you color with them. Just remember though, when you're using that brush end, to not go back and forth, back and forth, back and forth, or you will ruin that brush tip very quickly. So it might look like that when I'm doing it here, but I really am picking up in between each stroke. Okay. And if you feel like something needs more shading, if you're like, well, I don't like the shading, there's not enough of it, go back. I have the darker color here, and I'm going to go back, add just a little bit more, and then I can blend again. Don't be afraid of blending too much. Go back and add a little bit more if you want it to be a little bit darker. These are great to do in layers. Just let it dry for a minute and then just add another layer to it. Okay, so there's my mailbox. Let's add, we need a red flag. So I'm doing a Poppy Parade on my flag. And this one I'm just doing with one color. You could do both colors, but it's such a small area. So this is the light, yeah, this is the light Poppy Parade. Okay, there we go. And then I'm going to use the Granny Apple Green. Again, I'm only using one shade, but if you wanted to, you could use both shades. And I'm just giving a little bit of some green down here. That's it, just a little green. Okay, so here's what I want to show you now. So because I used that gray, and the gray, when I started using the Memento with the basic gray, there's a slight bit of, I don't know if you can see this in the camera. Let me see if I show you this a little better. There's a slight bit of like, it faded a little bit, like kind of bled into the crumb cake there, and it's a little more subdued. If you like it that way, leave it. But let me show you how to just make that really dark and make the mailbox stand out. I am taking the light basic black, and I'm using the bullet end, and I just want you to watch the difference, okay? Check this out here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go over each of the lines, and hopefully you'll be able to see this as I'm going along, how it just makes it pop. Okay, so this is the light basic black Stampin' blend. Are you seeing this now? I just love how it just makes it just, I don't know, it just pops and stands out. I feel like I'm rushing a little bit and maybe not being quite as neat, so you might want to slow down a little bit. But I'm hoping you're getting the idea here. Oh, I just find this so relaxing. So if you haven't given these a try, I really suggest that. All right. We're almost finished with this part, so thanks for bearing with me on this one. Have you done some card creating in the new year yet? It's only the 2nd, so I mean, it's really early. But I've had 2 different people message me with cards that they've already created in the new year, which is awesome. Getting the year started off with a little relaxation. All right, there you go. Okay, look at that. Do you see how that just popped right out? That's great. All right, so what I'm going to do now is, all right, I'm stamping I'm going to use this, and I'm going to use the gray. So this is a look at this little envelope. How cute is that? All right, I'm going to stamp this envelope on this white paper, just white cardstock. Okay, And then I just grabbed a little piece of, I don't even know exactly what paper this is from, but I just found a small print, a very small print of designer series paper, and stamping that leaf, I mean not that leaf, that envelope on there. All right, I'm gonna grab my scissors. It's just this rectangle, guys. It's not crazy fussy cutting. It's just a rectangle. It's not any funky shapes or anything. You can do it, I promise. All right. I'm gonna cut out this little envelope. All right, there we go. And there are dies to go with this too, if you want the dies. I actually did not get the dies for this one, but there are dies too, so if you'd rather that. Some of the dies I just think, oh my gosh, I need those dies. And then there's other ones I think, well, I could probably cut that out quicker. But if cutting is hard for you, if your hands are shaky and that's just a hard thing, then maybe you want the dies. So I'm cutting the whole thing. I don't really want that whole thing. I just want the top. Do you know how sometimes I've done videos or in classes, we make envelopes and then we make some little flaps that we decorate the flaps to make the envelopes match with the card? Well, I'm going to do that here. Okay, so I stamped this envelope on white paper and then I stamped it on a little piece of pattern paper. And then I just cut out the little triangle that goes on the top. So here we go. I'm going to use a little bit of liquid glue. Just a tiny bit so it's not oozing out. I'm going to take this little piece here, like a little paper piecing. I'm going to lay that down. Okay, this new catalog goes live on Thursday. I don't know what, depending on when you're watching this video. It goes live on January 4th, 2024. And celebration starts on Thursday also, and that's with every $50 purchase. You can choose a free stamp set from the celebration brochure. That will all be you'll be able to see everything online starting on Thursday. If you would like a hard copy of a catalog, shoot me a message and I can get that to you also. All right. So here we go. These are a piece. Look at that little tiny envelope. Ooh, that slid a little bit. There we go. Okay. So now we have a little envelope with a little pattern flap. So cute. Sometimes it's just those little extra things that just really make the card fun and good. All right. So I'm going to take this granny apple green piece that we had before. I'm going to make a little bit of grass. And I'm going to tear toward me. And the trick with this is you want to do one full piece rather than ripping off little chunks, because then it looks kind of junky. So one full, and just keep kind of going back and forth, and you're just getting this. Okay, I'm just getting rid of that one. I'm going to take the words that say "a little love from me to you," and we're going to stamp that in the gray, the basic gray. Put that down here at the bottom. Straight down, straight back up. And there we go. Let's close up that ink pad and we're all done with our stamping. Now let's assemble our card here. Let's take this one. Oh, I have a tendency to sit on my foot on a regular basis. Anybody else sit on their feet when they're working? It just tends to go to sleep sometimes though when I do that. All right. I'll take some liquid glue and put that along the bottom. We'll start on a corner over here. We're going to lay that down. Okay. Right away, I can see that there's just a little bit of extra hanging off there. I know you could just leave it. I think it gives a much more finished look if you trim that off. So if I turn it over here, on the back side, do you see how there's a little bit of green hanging off there? Trim that off. Just grab your scissors. And that will give it a much more finished look of your card so that everything is even on your edges. Okay, so take that. Let's take this piece here. Crumb cake. And I'm going to lay this one on an angle. It dries pretty quickly, which is nice. I'm going to take this one. Do you see how it bled through the back there? So you just want to, again, make sure you have something underneath it. take this, press that down. Okay, because we need a dimensional. Let's see, here's my dimensionals. We need something that pops up. I'm going to take this little itty bitty envelope. I'm going to put one dimensional on the back. And let's just put that coming out of the mailbox there. And there you go. And that's today's card. So I hope you love that. Again, this is just really, really, I love this stamp set. I'm really looking forward to creating with this, and I hope you love it too. If there's any questions you have, feel free to shoot me a message and let me know. Hit that thumbs up button down below. I appreciate that, and that just kind of helps me know what you enjoy and maybe what you not so much enjoy. But yeah, if there's anything I can do to help you out, let me know. If you're interested in the weekly newsletter that I have going out, you can let me know that also. So thanks so much, and Happy New Year to all of you, and go create. Talk with you later. Bye-bye.